to please escort our dignitaries on stage one by one. Ms. Niti Rai, Ambassador P.S. Raghavan, Dr. S. Somanath, Professor Ajay Sud. I will take a couple of minutes to say a few words about our journey so far before I familiarize all of you with today's program. Bharat Shakti was raised in 2015 with a focus on the Indian defense industry, especially MSMEs and export of Indian products. The idea of a conclave germinated a few months later, and we hosted the first edition of the conclave in August 2016, our annual marquee event. We then called it the Defense Attachés Conclave. Over the years, we expanded and launched Strat News Global in 2020. The scope and focus of the conclave also increased, and in the 6th edition in 2021, we renamed the event as the India Defense Conclave. We organized Catalyst as a separate event last year, focusing on green energy, e-mobility, and new technologies like 5G. Earlier this year, we continued to grow and launched Interstellar.news. In today's conclave, Catalyst forms an integral segment of India Defense Conclave. In the first half of the day, we will focus on new and emerging technologies and their applications in the civil and military domains. Post-lunch, we will have the India Defense Conclave with the focus this year primarily on building India's defense future. You all have a delegate bag in front of you, and you might have gone through the agenda of the day that is provided to you in a booklet inside that bag. So let us start the day. I see many defense attachés here, and I'm sure your strength will only increase as the day progresses. You know this event is primarily for you. I welcome all of you this morning. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you're posting on your social media accounts, please remember to use the hashtags IDC 2023 and Catalyst 2023, and do tag our handles at @Strat News Global and @ Bharat Shakti BSI. So let us begin the inaugural session of the Catalyst, after which we will have 2 knowledge sessions. None of you probably need an introduction, but still, for those of you who have come here for the first time, I would like to introduce Nitin Gokhale, founder and editor-in-chief, BharatShakti.in, Strat News Global, and Interstellar.news. He's an author, thought leader, and one of South Asia's leading strategic analysts, who has had 40 years of rich and varied experience behind him as a conflict reporter, editor, author, and now a media entrepreneur who owns and curates these 3 important digital platforms. The platforms, BharatShakti.in, StratNewsGlobal.com, and Interstellar.news focuses on national security, strategic affairs and foreign policy matters, and the upcoming Indian space industry and new and emerging technologies. I request Nitin Gokhale to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Nilanjana, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome. I'm sorry for a slight delay in beginning our inaugural session in the first half of the day, but we are on our way, and I'm sure we'll make up as we go along the time, and we'll keep our record of starting and ending on time as we go along. So as Nilanjana has already explained, we are about 8 years old in this space. We started this as a defense attachés conclave, but then we realized that the increasing overlap of geopolitics, geoeconomics, and geostrategy, and increasing use of space and outer space for different applications, both defense and civil, we needed to expand the scope of our work and our conference from just purely focusing on the defense sector, which was anyway taking a different turn in India since 2015-16 under the rubric of Make in India and what is now called Atmanirbharta or self-reliance. And therefore, we have now decided that we will have this conference in two segments. First is about emerging and critical technologies, and of course, look at optimal solutions which can be arrived at in a very cost-effective manner for use of both the civil and military domains and the users in civil and military domains. We've been fortunate to have great support from the government agencies. As you can see, all the dignitaries here. We have the principal scientific advisor, Professor Ajay Sud. We have Ambassador Raghavan, who is the chairman of the NSAB, and of course the chairman of DRDO, Dr. Samir, Kamat, and Ms. Niti Rai, who is the vice chairperson and CEO of Invest India, which is doing a great job in promoting India abroad and trying to get investments into India. So I'm grateful to all of them and all of you for making this event every year a big success. Every year our scope has increased, and that's thanks mainly to the participation of our foreign friends who get to know where the Indian industry in both defense as well as in the critical and emerging technologies is going, what they have on offer, and what they can source from India as an alternate destination instead of buying it from Western countries. Can India be the source of these technologies? Can India be a reliable partner in securing what we call the larger Indo-Pacific and of course the Indian Ocean region and the region around India is what we discuss here. I'm sure the takeaways will be very relevant to policymakers, decision makers, as well as our friends from the industry. So I'm not going to take much time. All that I want to say again is that we are grateful at Bharat Shakti, as well as Strat News Global and Interstellar.com, Interstellar.news, which is our third and youngest portal, focused on space and the upcoming space industry. So welcome once again, and very grateful for all of you for being here in such large numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin. It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Niti Rai, the MD and CEO of Invest India. Ms. Niti Rai joined Invest India after an illustrious 29 years at Intel as a global business and technology leader. She's been part of the leadership team in various industrial bodies and government committees and has worked closely with industry associations, business leaders, and government leaders. Ms. Rai brings her vast global business leadership experience and invaluable technological expertise across multiple industrial sectors, including semiconductors, electronics, automotive, telecommunications, healthcare, and manufacturing, to Invest India. She is the recipient of the prestigious Nari Shakti Puraskar from the Honorable President of India for her remarkable contributions in the field of technology. Ms. Rai, I request you to deliver the special address. Can I have a round of applause for her, please? Thank you.
Thank you. So very good morning, everyone. I must apologize that I got few minutes late. I'm from Bangalore, and in Bangalore, I always have 10 to 15 minutes guard band put. So when Google tells me 45 minutes, I plan 1 hour. But surprisingly today, I planned 1 hour and I came here in 1 hour, 15 minutes. So huge apologies to all of you. Very good morning to all of you again. And I must say, when I look at defense, when I look at people working for defense, I'll tell you I have a lot of feelings in my heart, feeling of gratitude, feeling of thankfulness, because you know the simple meaning, whichever dictionary you pick up, the meaning of defense is protecting someone, something, some data. In your case, you're protecting the country, you're protecting the freedom, you're protecting the world and humanity. So my kudos and tremendous amount of regards to anyone and everyone who's doing anything for defense. Thank you very much, Mr. Nitin Godkhleji, for inviting me. Thanks and welcome to all of the dignitaries, my friends. I'm really honored to be here and talk to you. I am the CEO and MD of Invest India. And just the name suggests, my responsibility is to drive investment into India and also from India, But the second part, which is more important, is I'm committed to the return of investment. Whether investment is coming into India, I care about the return. I am there for return. And if investment is going from India, I also care about return. Similarly, there's trade that just recently got added to our charter. And lastly is R&D. R&D is very important for me because, like my introduction, 30 years with Intel and semiconductors, I have worked on building a transistor. I have put the transistors together to make an IP. You all use USB all the time for your storage. And then many of such IPs to build a compute system, and many of those compute systems to build a platform, and many of those platforms to create clouds and servers and networking. So I have gone through all of that. And let me tell you the importance, what I gather from you as, defense conclave or anybody working in defense. Let me start with World War II. Everybody knows that, what the Enigma machine was. It was a cipher device, just trying to make sure that the information went through. What Turing did is build another machine called Bombay, which would intercept and break the information of Enigma. When there is a technology, there can be an anti-technology. So that was Alan Turing, the master of, or the father of artificial intelligence. Then there was another thing. When I moved to India, I was given the first OCI award, and that was my first interaction with the Prime Minister of India. And there were many routes that were marked. These are Prime Minister's route, and the traffic was blocked. We didn't know which route the Prime Minister was going to take because it's important for his security. Guess what Heidi Lamar did? She was an Austrian actress. She built a system which was called frequency hopping spread spectrum system, which would transmit data by frequency hopping. You didn't know which frequency it was going to take. So somebody is building an Enigma machine for secure transmission, and somebody is building a technology which is frequency hopping. Every time there is a technology which is built for harming the protection organization, and in many cases it's defense, which comes up with an anti-technology. Very recently, sadly, we hear about Israel and what's happening between Israel and a few nations. There are rockets being launched, and then there is an iron bomb, which is trying to protect. US has something called Patriot. So I really feel technology plays a huge role in the miscreants who try to harm and in the protectionists who try to save. I will also tell you about a simple World Wide Web. Everybody is using it. It was funded by Department of Defense. They came up with secure gateway interface. So a lot of research is being driven for protection, comes from defense. Very recently, I was working on blockchain. As my previous role, we were very responsible for AI and we were responsible for blockchain. Blockchain is essentially an answer to this problem, which is often referred to as Byzantine generals problem. When there is a split of an army working in different places, how do you make sure that you have information that is, together for all of the split army base? So when there is a problem, there is a solution. And I really feel the world of today with digital, we talked about cipher device and Enigma during the World War II. I think this was closer to, I believe, 1940s. 39 to 45 is the World War II. So somewhere in between, Enigma was created. And this was cipher device, then Bombay was created to, intercept. What we are looking at today, a cipher device can be a VPN, as simple as a VPN, as simple as, these virtual networks and machines that create this gateway of secure transmission. As the world is getting more and more into digital, more and more that, data is in the air today. I don't even know how much data is available, how much data is being captured. Just this morning, my husband's both the credit cards got compromised, and somebody in Best Buy in US was using his credit card. What we were able to do, instantly get onto the web page, block the card. So cyber attacks, anti-cyber attacks. What are some of the technologies that are being worked on? Many times there are technologies that we are working on which we do not want to talk about, because before we talk about, there's an anti-technology that comes into the picture. So I really feel technology plays a very, very crucial role. And as a technologist, as an R&D, we need to look at what tomorrow has in store for us. I want to end with, growing up as a technologist, everybody knows hydrogen plus oxygen is water. Hydrogen plus oxygen in an environment creates hydrogen fuel. It creates the energy that can power your car. Now, let's look at hydrogen plus hydrogen, which is a fusion, creates helium. Do you know? I mean, you, of course, all of you know. During this fusion, so much energy is created, it creates a hydrogen bomb. 1,000 times more powerful than a uranium-based atom bomb, which was, the history tells us, Japan suffered the implications of it. 1945. 7 years later, what is called as H-bomb, which is hydrogen fusion. Fusion, just like the name suggests, two nuclear, heavier nuclear, more powerful, 1,000 times more powerful, 1952. What happens in India? We are not just looking at land. We are not just looking at, so land is our army, defense, not Air Force, army and defense. Air is our Air Force. Navy in the water. Now we are talking about space. We have satellites that are watching over. Satellites watching over for any change. Satellites also for detection. Satellites also for use. So with India driving its Mars mission and its Moon mission, it's preparing for protection in the space. So what excites me is, if there are miscreants who are thinking use of technologies like AI, technologies like machine learning, deep learning, and even getting into quantum. I know Professor Ajay Sud is working on quantum. The protectionists are working on breaking that and creating an anti-technology. So I'm committed as an R&D for Invest India to drive and participate in many such researches, in partnering with academic institutes, in partnering with countries. I really believe our democratic vision and dream, many nations share, and I honestly believe that R&D and innovation needs to be open, partnerships need to be enabled, lateral, bilateral, multilateral relationships need to be established. We are working on many such things. I just visited Argonne National Lab. I was very excited to see what they're doing in terms of research in lithium ion. This is going to be leveraged for, our EV dreams. So I'm very excited working on the Agni mission with the principal scientific advisor. I have a small team that works with the PSA. We have Startup India. I'll tell you that there was a time when India was synonymous to software. And, we were building software for companies and others. Now, India has a dream of its own. It's building software in the terms of, these open platforms, whether it is biometric identity with Aadhaar, or it is, health platforms that Nandan Nilekani is working on, or it's the ONDC, which is the e-retail platform that can enable 600,000 MSMEs to access the world market and sell their products. So I really feel India is ready with its dreams that leverages R&D might, that leverages scale, that leverages the ability for democratic dreams. And I really feel the world of tomorrow is going to be very different. There may be wars happening which we don't even know or feel is happening in this space, but it can harm humanity. So I really feel that as a nation, as this defense conclave, we need to work together. I want to end with a quote from Dhirubhai Ambani. And I actually just shared this with an Indian diaspora, and I'll tell you how I connected the two quotes that I just made. One is Dhirubhai Ambani says, if you are not going to work on your dream, somebody will hire you to work on theirs. And I will just remind you of a history that happened, sadly. This was, long back in our own country in Jallianwala Bagh. And the reason I bring it because very recently I traveled there. I saw the bullet marks on the walls. I saw the well where lots of people just jumped in to save themselves. But, they were shot dead in those wells, little children, women, everybody. What happened there is our own Indian soldiers were working on the dream of somebody else. So working on somebody else's dream, we harmed our own selves. So let's work on our dream, which is to save humanity, the protectionist that you are, to save the world, to grow the world, leverage technology, and catapult ourselves to be the winners. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rai. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Samir Kamat to you all. Dr. Kamat took over as the Secretary, DDR&D and Chairman, Defense Research and Development Organization, or DRDO, on the 26th of August, 2022. He has provided leadership and direction to several critical materials programs in DRDO, such as the development of high-strength steels for naval ship hulls, development of high-temperature titanium alloys, and nickel-based superalloy-based components for aero engines, which have found use in various systems being developed by DRDO laboratories. In addition, he has spearheaded the development of naval systems such as advanced lightweight torpedo, anti-torpedo decoy systems, towed array sonars for ships, and fuel cells-based air-mounted and independent propulsion systems for submarines. Dr. Kamat, I request you to please address the gathering. Can I have a round of applause for the DRDO chief? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, dignitaries in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed very happy to be here. And I thank, can you hear me? Am I audible? Okay. So I'm indeed thankful to Nitin Gokhale for giving me this opportunity to participate and address you in this India Defense Conclave. I don't want to carry coal to Newcastle. I think the audience here knows the importance of technology and R&D for defense. So I will highlight what we are doing in DRDO to make this dream or this necessity possible in the country. Till recently, DRDO's focus was on developing systems to meet our services need. But as the industry matures in the country, And in the last few years, the capability development in the industry has been quite significant. So gradually, DRDO's focus is going to shift towards development of these new emerging critical futuristic technologies. And we want to leverage the expertise which is available in our academia, which is available in our emerging startup ecosystem, as well as our MSMEs, to build this capability for providing our services, the cutting edge systems they would need to ensure the security of the nation. So the first initiative that we have taken is to open 15 centers of excellence. We call this DRDO Industry Academia Centers of Excellence. We have started 15 such in the prominent academic institutions in the country. For each of these centers of excellence, we have identified the domain areas in which they would specialize. We have set them targets on where they want to reach, where we want them to reach, say in the next 5 years, 10 years, in all of these emerging and futuristic technologies. So we expect these centers of excellence to act as hubs and create an ecosystem around themselves which would make the country a leader in some of these technologies. Parallelly, we have started what is known as Technology Development Fund, where we can fund up to 50 crores. Any industry, MSME or a startup, which has a promising idea, which can then be translated by this proper funding, mentoring into a technology or a product which would be useful for our services. Thirdly, we have also started 5 young scientists laboratories within DRDO, each working on these emerging areas such as AI, quantum. In these laboratories, every scientist, including the director, are below the age of 35. We think that this will become the equivalent of startups within DRDO. And as we go along, we will increase the number of areas in which we will start more of these laboratories. Earlier, the defense and aerospace used to provide the leadership in technologies, and gradually that used to diffuse into civilian domains. But the way that world is changing, it is now the civilian domain which is driving most of these disruptive technologies. And they are then getting eventually incorporated into defense systems. So we want to leverage this entire civil military fusion to drive development of critical technologies for military applications and make the country a leader within the next 15-20 years as envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister. So these are exciting times, and I'm sure conclaves as this one would result in how we can work together to achieve this leadership. So my best wishes to all of you for a very successful deliberation in this conclave. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamat. And now I would like to introduce all of you to the chairman of the NSAB, Ambassador P.S. Raghavan. The National Security Advisory Board advises India's National Security Council on issues of security and strategic affairs. In a 36-year diplomatic career, Ambassador Raghavan has served in different capacities in the USSR, Poland, United Kingdom, Vietnam, and South Africa. He has been India's ambassador to Russia from 2014 to 16 and Ireland from 2007 to 11. From 2000 to 2004, he served in the Indian Prime Minister's office, dealing with foreign affairs, defense, national security, space, and atomic energy. In the Ministry of External Affairs from 2011 to 14, he founded and headed the Development Partnership Administration, which implements India's projects abroad. He writes and lectures widely on foreign and national security and strategic affairs. Sir, may I request you to please address the gathering. Can I have a round of applause for the Ambassador Raghavan, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Well, let me first thank Nitin Gokhale, Bharat, Shakti, and Stat News Global for inviting me here, and also to congratulate them on this extraordinary success of this annual exercise that you're having. I've been watching this for a while and seeing it literally before my eyes, growing in stature, in geographical reach, and of course in its domain coverage itself. And the presence here, of course, of the dignitaries on the dais and the participants, I think is eloquent testimony to that. I think this initiative caught at the right time the rising tide of three related currents. The need to strengthen indigenous capacity in our defense industry, to diversify our technology acquisition and technology absorption process, and to accelerate the civil-military fusion. In the National Security Advisory Board, of course, we have been constantly focusing on recommending initiatives to the government for accessing, producing, and leveraging technology that are critical for national development and, of course, for national security and defense. We, of course, are seeing today the extraordinary explosion of technologies that are transforming war fighting, defense, and deterrence. We see in the Ukraine war, of course, the synthesis of electronic, cyber, and space technologies which enable pinpoint targeting and greater destruction, of course. Again, we've heard this, quantum information technologies will revolutionize intelligence collection, stealth technologies, encryption, code breaking. So all of these are areas where we are looking for greater cooperation within the country, outside the country, with administrators, policy makers, technology creators, technology absorbers. And of course, one of the things that I think Nitin sort of hinted at is the fact that as the world's largest arms importer, India should fine-tune strategies for leveraging this fact to maximize technology transfers from outside. Another aspect, of course, is this meaningful participation of the private sector in defense R&D. That again is something that conclaves like this emphasize, because the paradigm shift in recent years has been that most technologies are developed first in the civil sector and then absorbed and adapted in the military sector and in the defense sector. I think if you look at the Ukraine war, that is a very graphic illustration of this. If you look at what Elon Musk and his Starlink has done, is an enormous demonstration of this. And I think we are going to see space technologies emerge in various aspects of war fighting and war deterrence. And I think we have a very eminent space scientist on the dais here, Dr. Somanath, who has led India to some path-breaking achievements in space. I think the government's policy decision also to open up space to the private industry, it's going to, I think, create a very major thrust in India's space technology development in the public sector as well as in the private sector. I think the CEO of Invest India mentioned this. You know, while we are rapidly absorbing hardware and equipment, we should not neglect the urgency of capacity building in cyber security, in the software part of it. In India, we are, I think, woefully short of cyber professionals, particularly with domain expertise in various sectors. And there's an urgent need to build up a cadre of cyber professionals. If people talk about 1 million cyber professionals in the next 5 years or so, we need to step up accreditation programs. We need to step up large-scale training programs. I think later today we will have our National Cyber Security Coordinator, General Niti Rai, who is really driving this exercise. Another point, which again the CEO of Invest India mentioned, is that amidst all this proliferation of technologies, some very destructive technologies are being captured by non-governmental elements, anti-state elements, and we really need to see how we build up defenses against such developments. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I also want to mention one fact which I mentioned last year at this conclave as well. One of the problems that technology creators face, or some of the problems technology creators face, is, shall we say, inadequate technology literacy in policy and decision-making circles. I'm putting it gently, but both in the bureaucracy and in some political levels, which actually slow down the absorption of transformation technologies, both in the civil and the defense sector. And I think the scientists who are here on the days have experienced this in various ways in the course of their long careers as well. We also seem to have a technology apathy, which slows down the absorption of technologies, both in the civil and in the military defense sector. And there is a technology skepticism. The unwillingness to believe that we have and we can develop technologies within our countries for applications which we need, which is more appropriate and more economical than what we can get outside. Very often this is, of course, caused by ignorance and apathy as well, but also, I'm sorry to say, vested interests, which we have to fight against. So what we need is a better domestic awareness of our technology prowess and what we can achieve. And again, the scientists and technologists on the days here show us the directions as to how to do that. And finally, while congratulating Nitin on this enormous success of this initiative and its expansion of domain, I have been urging him to expand the geographical footprint of this event as well. We have a number of such events in Delhi. All of you are here in Delhi. But there is, I would like to point out, innovation and technology. There are innovation and technology hubs in the south of the country as well. And I think some of this dynamism and some of this vibrancy should also move to the south. I talk about Bangalore not only because I live there, but also because it is a center of innovation and new technologies. And I'd like to see conclaves like this, conferences like this, also move southward. I hope to see this by next year. Thank you.
That made me very happy, sir. I'm also from Bangalore. Our next speaker needs no introduction, but a couple of lines about Dr. S. Somanath, the chairperson of ISRO. Dr. Somanath is an aerospace engineer with over 35 years of experience in the space sector. He joined ISRO in 1985 and has since then served in many positions at the Liquid Propulsion System Center and the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. As part of his role as ISRO chairman, Dr. Somanath is focusing on technology, policy, implementation, and areas where stakeholders need to be taken care of. he is also, very importantly, working to expand the ecosystem of space into industries. Sir, I request you to deliver the keynote address.
Good morning, all of you, distinguished panelists who are there. Really an honor to be invited to India Defense Conclave, Catalyst 2023. I may be an outsider, because all the time we have been telling space is for certain purpose, and it has nothing to do with the domain of discussion that are going to happen today. But over the years, we are now realizing the potential of space and the work that's being done in space for the strategic intent. It's not a new awareness, it has been all the time there, but it's becoming more and more evident in the present times. The role played by the assets that we have created in space, both in civilian and strategic domain, both becomes very, very important. For as far as the security of any nation is concerned, the business and investments that are coming into this domain is concerned, it becomes equally important. So we see the work done in space sector, not only in space sector, I will say it's in other engineering sectors become equally important as a strategic asset for any nation. And considering this, the outlook in the space sector is actually being changed in the recent times. I think all of you are aware of the space sector reform that has been announced by the government in 2020 and the new policy that has come out in space sector in 2023 called the Space Policy 2023, which separates out the roles and responsibilities of the Department of Space, the ISRO, the InSpace, which is a new entity we have created, and also the non-governmental entities in space. So here the role of the new actors who are in space sector comes very, very clear, that they are encouraged to work in space, not only in some domains which are earlier allowed, but in every domain, building rockets to delivering applications in every sector. Private entrepreneurs are now encouraged, supported by the government to invest and create the capacity in India. And the role played by the National Space Agency, the ISRO, is now modified a bit to an extent that ISRO will continue to do the research and development and create the high value technologies within the organization and make it available to the private entrepreneurs to create more value or business out of it. I think this direction is very, very clear. And we have an InSpace, which is another organization which is supposed to handhold and help the non-governmental actors to come into space sector. So with this background, if I look at the technology developments that are required in this sector, I think I will invite you to the role played by ISRO in the past in creating the industrial capacity in India to manufacture the rockets, the satellites, and much of the technology hardwares which are required for the space program in India. Though it happened over the past, we have almost 200, 300 companies who are contributing to space sector, big, small, medium capacity industries. And many of them have really created a niche for themselves in terms of the manufacturing, in terms of re-engineering many of the capacities which we were earlier importing from the past, from outside. And today we have for rockets that we build in India, almost 90+% of the components, materials, manufacturing sourced from Indian companies. And for spacecrafts, it's continued to be approximately 50%. We still have a long way to go, especially related to the electronic components and high-end devices. In the future, we see the role played by space sector is going to be more and more prominent in the strategic domain, especially in the domains of the communication, Earth observation, PNT services. All of them will become an integral part of the strategic capability that the nation is going to look at. I think all of you are now aware that the civilian low Earth orbit constellation is actually a strategic capability. Though they don't call it as a strategic system, but it is a strategic capability for every nation who actually have the control on such infrastructure. So even the communication infrastructure that we are going to create in this country is going to be very, very important at the times of the need. And so is the case for Earth observation constellations that we have here in India. The number of satellites that we have launched in the Earth observation is very, very less. They are hardly 15, 16, or even less than 20 who are in operation. And for a nation like us who have an interest not only in for the civilian aspect of the Earth observation and also want to look at the much beyond our boundaries, the number of satellites that we have are very, very less, and these numbers have to be increased substantially in the coming days. And it's not only the numbers have to be increased, then we need to ensure the repetitivity, the reusability, the signal or the spectral diversity has to be much, much higher for allowing observations of various kinds, and technology growth in this domain is very, very important. The PNT services, the position, navigation, timing services, which are generated by the NAVIC system, which is a regional navigation system, what India has launched, need to be strengthened. It has to be expanded for the purpose of the strategic needs. This is another important domain. And we have to improve the penetration of NAVIC into the systems that we have in India, both in terms of the ground-based system as well as the handheld devices. This is another goal that we have set for ourselves. Yet another domain is the launch and the launch cost. I think all of you are aware that the innovations that are happening in the rocket technology and the reusability is actually causing disruption in this field. The access to space is now becoming much better. Everybody can have a satellite. Earlier it used to be only for select few to build and launch a satellite, but now it's very easy for somebody to conceive a satellite, build a satellite, and launch at affordable cost. It came out of the simple reason that the launch costs are coming down because of the innovation in rocket technology. And this has to become widespread capability, but it's not an easy thing because you have huge investment required in building rockets, and long gestation time don't allow people to invest in rocket building. So we have to invest in rocket technology as a public funded capacity and enable industries to produce and launch in large numbers, especially with regard to reusable rockets, which is going to be one of the important domain of work in ISRO. And we also want to look at the expendable rocket to be reusable, but also winged reusable rockets which can go up and stay in orbit for months together, do observations and come back and land whenever we want. And this capacity is very, very important in the strategic point of view. We also look at other modes of building spacecrafts. For example, earlier satellites used to be built out of very space grade components, which are very extremely costly. And we are now looking at how commercial electronic devices can be used for building spacecraft at affordable cost, and the turnaround time can be substantially reduced from the earlier years to months together. And the redundancy that you can build in because the commercial components are much in small footprint, mass, and power. And this enables you to build redundancies in systems and possibly low life spacecrafts. Earlier, satellites used to be 10 years, 15 years life. Now they don't have to be of that life. At an affordable cost, you can allow satellites to be having 3 years, 5 years of life and still bring them back after the function is over. So this is another domain of bringing commercial off-the-shelf components into space domain. Quantum becomes very important. We already started this domain, especially in the area of quantum communication, quantum cryptography, quantum key distribution. It's going to be very important to give secured communication to the terrestrial networks. On-demand launches are important, that whenever there is a need for us to launch satellites, we must be in a position to launch in very short notice, especially for low altitude observational capacity. Intelligence gathering through various means becomes important. It's not only for communication, but it's also for signal intelligence and other modes of intelligence that need to be achieved through space. We also look at space assets need to be protected. It's not the assets on the ground need to be protected by the strategic capacity that we develop. We need to ensure that all the assets that we are putting in space also need to be protected. So we need to have observational capacity from ground to ensure they are tracked, they are monitored, they are secured by conscious actions that are taking place in the ground. For that, we need to create more and more ground-based observatories, radars, or even space-based observatories to look at and secure the assets that you have created. Human space is important. Human space flight capability is important because it becomes an important tool for robotic and also extravehicular activities to build up larger constellations of capacity in the future, build larger constellations by assemblage of systems, or even conducting human-based experiments for technology development in space, etc. So this becomes a strategic capacity. And also we look at even planetary missions as a capacity which is required to be as a strategic capacity. It's not just for the moon landing, as you have seen in Chandrayaan 3, is not just a demonstration of a technology capacity. It's also an intent to create a technological supremacy in terms of our ability to occupy or be there at Moon and Mars and other extra planets at some point in time for ensuring our real role and responsibility as far as ensuring safety and security of all these assets are concerned. One of the important intent that we have ensured is the technology that we develop in space sector, especially in ISRO, is made available to the private companies and startups for working on furthering the use for business and commercial intent, especially with the satellite data that we have collected over so many years, the Earth-based observation data. Now we have made it available to all the users at low cost or reasonably free, so that the business get developed in this domain. We also ensure that technologies are available to private companies at an affordable cost, sometimes at a discounted rate for them to make use of it. We have recently announced technology transfer of satellites, technology transfer of even rockets to companies now. So this is a changing environment in space sector now. We would like to see private companies coming up, invest in space and create capability for India for a vibrant space economy in India. Throughout the last 60, 70 years, we have been investing in space from the public funds alone. The private investment in space sector has been very, very low. And this has to change. And this can change only when we open up the sector, we allow private people to operate, and we empower them with the technologies that we already developed by the public funding. And this direction is very clear from the government. And in the Department of Space, we are looking at this possibility. We already have connect between institutions across the nation, laboratories, academic institutions, and this tie-up will become one of the important strengths for ISRO to develop future technology. And we have an array of large number of technology development programs which are already ordered and in progress in the organization. I believe in the coming days, the sector is going to boom, have a significant growth. And recently, one of the survey that we have conducted indicated that the type of growth in economy in space sector is going to be substantially high in various sectors. I think this is going to be an exciting time for all of us. And I believe the Indian strategic community also will look at space as a very integral part of the journey that we need to work on and make use of this capacity as a strength adding or multiplying factor, so that we really create an investment, we create business opportunity, we create manufacturing hubs in space sector in India, not only for civilian use, but also for security of all our assets. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somanath. And now I would like to introduce Professor Ajay Sud to all of you, the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. Professor Sud has been the Principal Scientific Advisor since April 2022. He's also the Chairperson of the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. He has a doctorate in physics from IISc Bangalore. His research interests include the physics of quantum materials, soft and active matter. He has published more than 450 papers in peer-reviewed journals and holds several patents. May I request you, sir, to please deliver the inaugural address. Can I have a round of applause for him, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, my thanks to Nitin Gokhale for having me in this August gathering, along with very eminent panelists who have said everything what needs to be said about the civil-military fusion in various forms. Actually, this name catalyst I like, because I think what is meant immediately by this is to somehow, with various inputs, to enhance the civil-military fusion. I guess that's the purpose of this gathering, because technology is a key player in our security system. Now, if you have to achieve this fusion, we need seamless talent and capacity infusion from various sectors, be it academia, industry, and startups, and so on. Now, as mentioned, that for a long time, this cross play between civil and the strategic use has been happening, and we all are the beneficiaries of that. As was mentioned, GPS, which we cannot live without, is initially designed for military purpose, has now become an integral part of our lives. But I want to take this example to also make a point that GPS would not have been possible but for the general theory of relativity of Einstein. You would not have been able to position without making the correction involving general theory of relativity. The reason I am saying this is that the fundamental science, or the basic science as you call it, is absolutely essential for the cutting edge technology. So whatever is there in the basic science today would become a reality sooner or later for technology which could be used in strategic sector. Now, in that that brings me to an important development in this year, that government launching this Anusandhan National Research Foundation, ANRF. And ANRF is a wonderful instrument which has been brought in to really bring synergy between various funding agencies, various ministries, various departments, and make sure that the whole of government approach, whole of business, industry, all of them come together in this National Research Foundation ecosystem, which will fund not only the basic research, which is essential for cutting edge technology, but also for the translational part, where we would like to see a strong participation of industry along with academia. So there are many examples again of this dual use technologies, and the one again which was mentioned is the internet, again which has become an integral part of our life, which started as a ARPANET and it has now evolved into a very critical infrastructure, and of course it can also be weaponized now, and you can already see that whatever happens in one domain has a natural takeover or the synergy in the other domain. So I will just say that if you look at the obvious things where this fusion is happening and it needs to be enhanced is the sector in AI. AI is integral part of, again, all our technology ecosystem. And this is something which we need to do, in my opinion, on a much, much bigger footing. Because whatever you may say, we are the users of AI, but we do not have enough investment or our take on the foundation models. So India as a country, we need to be really doing in our foundation models, which you just cannot avoid. And this is again something which is happening, and we are discussing ways to do it in a bigger scale. Obviously, the other thing which I am very fond of is the evolving quantum technology. Quantum technology is something which we cannot say whether we should do it or not do it. Question is, when do you get into it in full swing? So in the last 3 to 5 years, the scene has completely changed. What looked really a thing of future is not the future, it's already there. You have quantum computers already, you can buy time on them, and once that happens on a large scale, all your encryptions, 128-bit or 256 encryptions, they are not safe. So the quantum safe world is a reality in civil sector, because we have a huge digital economy, and the strategic sector. So this is something India has launched, a quantum mission, and in this mission Department of Science and Technology is leading it. But the good point is that other ministries, including DRDO, Atomic Energy, MIT, Department of Telecommunication, all of them are part of it. So quantum is one thing in quantum computing as well as quantum communication. Again, quantum communication is already happening on a small scale, I would call. We have the startups which are internationally competitive. Already the links between Sanchar Bhavan and other buildings in Delhi are operating. But what we need to see is the long-term communication. It can be via satellite or by the secure nodes using quantum repeaters. So this is again very, very fundamental basic science is needed, which will be immediately useful for this quantum network. There are many other things which have been alluded to, be it the semiconductor technology. This is one technology where we were left behind. We missed the bus, as they say. But now there is a completely conscious awareness, and as you have seen, almost like a $10 billion investment government has announced, and already the efforts are on to have a foundry and all other ecosystem. This is again which we cannot avoid, and this is also coming to a coming as a key thing, because you really need the safety of the hardware. So you have the safety of the software, but also equally important is the hardware. And again here the semiconducting chip technology will be absolutely essential for our defense. So there are many other things I will not say, but I will only say that things are happening on a very positive note in our country. Many programs have been announced which are encouraging the startups, which are encouraging the industry engagements, all along with the academia. And this, I hope, will really pick up in the coming months and years. And I see a very bright future for this infusion of civil and military use. Once again, all the very best for this conclave, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Sood. May I please request Nitin to present mementos to our dignitaries on stage. We've come to the end of the inaugural session of Catalyst 2023. The mementos are a small token of gratitude to all our dignitaries on stage for taking out the time and sharing their thoughts and ideas with us. A memento to Ms. Niti Rai, to Dr. Samir Kamat, to Ambassador P.S. Raghavan, to Dr. S. Somanath, and Professor Ajay Sud. Very quickly, I'll take a minute more. I would like to propose the vote of thanks for this session. First of all our speakers on the dais, thank you for taking out the time. Our esteemed guests, the Foreign Defense Attachés, India's military officers, technocrats and thinkers present in the audience, industry delegates, and there are some students also who have joined us, the future of our nation. I'm sure you will continue to take back a lot of ideas with you. I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you on behalf of BharatShakti.in and stratnewsglobal.com and interstellar.news for taking out the time and making it to our event. I hope the rest of the 2 knowledge sessions that will follow till lunch will be as engaging and interesting, and we will have lots to think about, lots to talk about. I would now request our dignitaries to please join the audience. And for those of you who are in a hurry, who have to leave, I request you to please visit the kiosks before you go. Please take out some time, very painstakingly put up by our partners. Nitin, could you do the needful? If you could just request, can I have a round of applause, please, once again for this session? Thank you so much. Once again, requesting our dignitaries to please do a kiosk visit and join the audience. For those of you who have to leave, thank you once again for coming. And, it was lovely having you. In the meantime, let's do a quick handover, my team. And we'll proceed without delay into our first knowledge session. Ladies and gentlemen, the first knowledge session is the utilization of new and emerging technologies for civil and military domains. While our dignitaries, I can see Professor Sud moving towards the kiosk areas. I request our other dignitaries to also do that. Let me also now move into the the first knowledge session, and I will request the moderator and the dignitaries to please come up one by one as I introduce you and I announce your names. First, our moderator, Dr. Chaitanya Giri, the editor of Interstellar.news. Professor Chaitanya Giri is an internationally renowned and award-winning space scientist specializing in astrochemistry. With a wealth of experience working on interplanetary space missions in Europe, Japan, and the United States, Professor Giri brings a deep understanding of the technical aspects of space exploration. His expertise extends to space policy analysis, emerging geostrategy and ethics, space economy, and science-tech diplomacy. As editor of Interstellar.news, Professor Giri provides valuable insights into the Indian space industry, startups, and the global space landscape. His extensive research, consulting work, and academic affiliations make him a key contributor to the platform's coverage of the space domain. Dr. Giri, thank you very much for agreeing to moderate this session. May I please call upon Mr. J.D. Patil from Larsen & Toubro. Mr. J.D. Patil served on the board of L&T as whole-time Director, Defense and Smart Technologies. He is currently member of the Executive Council of Management of L&T and advisor to the CEO and MD for L&T's defense and new age smart technology businesses. He has a rich, more than 4-decade-long career in Larsen & Toubro and has been instrumental in growing the nascent technology and product development group of L&T's corporate R&D. He spearheaded L&T's foray in the defense sector since the inception of this segment in L&T, and in the mid-80s itself. He oversaw the evolution of L&T's space businesses as the longest and most mature industry partner of ISRO. Mr. Patil, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this session. Welcome to this panel. Our next speaker is Air Vice Marshal D.V. Khote, retired, former Chief of Defense Space Agency. In his 35 years of distinguished service, AVM Khote has tenanted a variety of operational, staff, and instructional appointments. Before retiring on the 23rd of July, he commanded the Defense Space Agency for 2 years. He is a Category A qualified flying instructor. He instructed the US Air Force from 1995 to 97 and at the Fighter Training Wing, Hakimpet. He also served as senior instructor at the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, and as head of the Faculty of War Gaming at the College of Air Warfare, Sikandrabad. Thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. I would like to call upon Toby Simon next from Synergia Foundation. Synergia is a strategic think tank and incubation company that works in the area of deep tech and advanced technologies. Toby Simon is a commissioner with the Global Commission for Internet Governance and a member of the Trilateral Commission. He has been an advisor to several international organizations such as the World Health Organization, Médecins Sans Frontières. He is currently pursuing his doctoral studies in strategic security. Mr. Simon, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Colonel V.S. Valen, the founder of Elena Geosystems, I would like to call upon next. Lieutenant Colonel V.S. Valen is an Army veteran. He dedicated himself for the proliferation of satellite-based navigation using an Indian constellation called Navik. He has been associated with this technology since 1998 and with Navik from its genesis in 2008 to 2010. Since 2010, he has been working in this niche segment. While in service, Colonel Valen was instrumental in establishing and developing the Ministry of Defense Integrated Space Cell, which has now grown in the Space Forces of India. With his domain knowledge and expertise on GNSS, Colonel Velan launched Elena Geosystems in 2012 in the technology business incubator of IIT Kharagpur. He's the only company working dedicatedly to develop indigenous solutions for Navik. Colonel Velan, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Mr. Rohan Verma next, our next panelist, the CEO of Map My India. Mr. Verma holds a profound interest in technology with a focus on its potential for social good, along with a passion for maps, location services, IoT, automotive, mobility, electric vehicles, health, and sustainability. As the CEO of Map My India, he's primarily responsible for steering the company's corporate strategy and growth, overseeing sales and marketing efforts, driving product development and innovation. In 2004, he embarked on his entrepreneurial journey when he became involved in his family's mapping and technology businesses in India. He played a pivotal role in steering the company towards a consumer-focused approach, resulting in the birth of Map My India. Rohan, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Can I have a round of applause for this session, please? I hand over the session to the moderator, Dr. Chaitanya Giri.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to moderate this esteemed gathering of doers, thinkers, academicians, as well as people who have delivered to the country when the country needed the most. So it's indeed an honor to chair or moderate this first knowledge session on utilization of emerging technologies in the civil and military domain. Emerging technologies are always a challenge because they run miles ahead of regulation. We rarely tend to understand its true nature, its true applications, and they always keep us on tenterhooks. And to discuss some of these technologies today, we have our eminent panel. Technologies ranging from geospatial to artificial intelligence to machine learning. To mapping. There's so many things that need to be put into context when it comes to their real world application, especially applications in the battlefield. And the changing scenarios of battlefields ensure that we are on our toes, and some of these emerging technologies are not only analyzed academically, but also deployed in a way that the country does not suffer from surprises, strategic surprises. To begin this session, I'd first like to invite Dr. J.D. Patil, sir. Sir has been steering L&T and its defense arm for many years. We have been looking up to his views, his analysis quite regularly at different intervals. The vantage point that he sits on, from there, he teaches us a lot. So I'd first invite Dr. J.D. Patil, sir.
Good morning, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. When I start looking at this annual conclave, this is, I believe, the 9th, Nilanjana? 8th, huh? 8th. Somehow I counted one more. Right from the first conclave, we realized the potential of what Nitin is trying to do. And from that point on, we make it a point that we are present here every year. And truly, I think this is the first year Nitin has got the word right when he mentions the catalyst. something that doesn't get consumed only enhances the efficiency of what happens. And I think that's exactly the role which Nitin and his team in Bharat Shakti have been playing to make sure that every segment of the stakeholder in the defense ecosystem is actually present for this event. And there's sort of discussions, an enormous amount of takeaways, and there's a follow-up which Bharat Shakti thereafter continues to be doing. Coming specific to the space that we are talking about as part of this session and the emerging technologies in space, it's a bit of a, I would say, cliche that space is a very matured sector in India, having truly built very sizably and completely indigenous ecosystem. In that sense, very, very complete Atmanirbhar, exception being some small amount of imports. But for that, this is a sector which has been completely on its own, and all credit to ISRO that it has actually been realized since the point in time ISRO was founded in 1968, and today it's that exactly about little more than 55 years over which we see that this kind of achievements of ISRO have happened. Now, what has changed? Dr. Somanath talked about it. What has changed is somewhere around 2020. I must say the COVID is a blessing in many, many aspects that truly provided time to truly think and get into some amount of forward thinking. And that's one of those things that happened to the space sector. This is a period in which, after a lot of mulling, debate, discussions, the Prime Minister announced the opening of this sector for industry. And the reason to open it for industry, which is first aspect of the business model innovation. The innovation in the business model here is it was reserved for the state. ISRO was doing what all it can, but at the same time, the commerce aspect of what we do for the rest of the world was 2% of the global economy. At $6 billion is what India was producing for space, and that's from a point where there's today a target during the Amrit Kal, first 10 years of it, from 2023 to 2033, it's expected to be of the order of $33 to $35 billion, a growth of minimum 5 to 6 times X from where we stand today. Now, this is where the business innovation is the first innovation that becomes extremely important. The second set of innovation, which we obviously need to go through, is ISRO focused on certain levels of technologies, and Dr. Somanath again very rightly talked about it. Geospatial, or let's say geostationary, has been an aspect which is well matured. LEOs, we done some more for military satellites, but we haven't really done much. And this is an area where enormous amount of leverage, and that's where the new technologies are room for that. And that's essentially where one is going to be talking of very large constellations of LEOs. One, for communication. We know the scenario in the border situations of our own country, the communication network is far more wanted, to say the least. Now, these are areas where having a fixed kind of networks and availability of network on demand is not going to be existing. And the best possible solution for that, as well as lots of remote areas, is going to be based on what we will do from space. Now, the second aspect of the same thing is navigation, and that's where Rohan will actually deal with a lot. He's one of those people who essentially created for navigating something in our crowded cities, but also navigation was one of those first requirement, and what we all old-timers working for ISRO know is the first commitment ISRO made to the fishermen who gave ISRO the first integration bay inside that church in Tumba. To them, the commitment was, as soon as we are maturing, we'll provide a support to you. And from space, you are able to see which is a region in which they're likely to be fishing more fish, which is the place to go, and irrespective of whether network is there or not, a communication message is passed on. These are the possible locations where their livelihood they can enhance. Now, this is an aspect of seeing from space with multispectral imagery to be able to see different aspects of what exists on Earth, below the surface, as well as on surface. On surface, we necessarily call it the geospatial, but below is another aspect of this. And these are where the technologies have to far more start getting contribution, making contributions for the common man. The third segment, and a completely different segment again, is how to do. All of us know that agriculture in India many years back used to be completely dependent on the rain god. Now, whatever the quantum of water that our rivers carry and flow out into the sea, if whatever extent we are able to store it and save it, how do you distribute it far more efficiently to be able to truly provide that extra livelihood to the farmer? And this is essentially where the precision agriculture is actually taking shape. There are many progressive states in which I'm personally aware, as Lacentrobro, we also do some of those programs of a lack of hectares being irrigated with a precision. Now, what is the precision associated with it is you can utilize multiple types of sensors of temperature, humidity, wind, the surface moisture, and whole lot of it is combination of technologies of sensory on surface as well as from the sky, and be able to provide very precise information to a farmer in terms of what is the right time to irrigate. So minimum possible water gets consumed for a highest possible yield. So to say per capita water consumption, what is that you would get? And these are technologies wherein enormous amount of futuristic work has to happen, because each type of crop, and we know that being a country of a size, we actually have a variety of crops, and India became completely self-independent in terms of grain. But we all know in our own living life, we have seen that India was on the verge of the entire food grains sort of not going to be lasting more than a couple of weeks. And that's the time the PL 480, whole lot of us who were young those days would remember the times when US decided to help India with the export of grain so that people can survive. These were years, multiple years when the monsoons failed. So in those kind of situations, how to survive, how to live, how to take it forward is where truly one can use technologies. The yet another aspect of the space technologies, which essentially will make enormous amount of difference for us to sort of fight, essentially now relates to the military segment. And that makes an enormous amount of difference for specifically this conference, because space imagery, Earth observation, call it different levels of analysis one can do to an extent of finding tunnels in our border areas. Every of these things are possible to be today done from space, and enormous amount of work that truly is required to be done to be able to do that. If it's today up to a certain level of depth, it's possible to know. Little deeper, in excess of 10 meters, it's not so easy. And these are areas where huge amount of futuristic energies that are needed to be done. And towards this, when it was decided mid-2020 that the sector would be open, the first most important part is making a slogan to say it's open for the private sector is fine, but how do you actually make that happen? And this is an era where we found a regulator being created. Never in the world anywhere one would find that the regulator also has a job of a promoter, and that's in space. It's a promoter, handholder for the new players who are coming in, making sure every government-owned facility which today was part of ISRO being made available at a concession. And I know, having been serving on the in-space board, I know the enough amount of concessional rates at which it is provided to every startup, every industry who wants to do things in India. And based on that, from the upstream, from a rocket to a satellite down to when we start getting the data down, after the downloading of or downlinking of the data related handling is, all of us believe, is 80% of what one can produce in terms of technologies for all the kind of things that I mentioned earlier, to be able to analyze, to be able to say what needs to be done. And this is an hope this nation today carries. It's just about less than 3 years young in terms of making the announcement of opening. First policy Dr. Somanath talked about came only this April. But I must say 11 pages of that policy makes it so clear. And this is a beautiful piece of work which has been done. Dozens of interactions with the industry, with every possible think tank. And based on that, on the flip side, we have the defense policy, which is 700 pages, and we still grapple every day with what is to be done. There's an 11-page document which precisely lays down role of every organization, what ISRO will do, what NSIL will do, what InSpace will do, what the non-governmental enterprises, that's a specific word coined. They don't say private, they don't say public, they don't try to create boundaries and wells within this sector which is called industry. They say anybody who is non-government. So whether it's the state and central government is the government aspect, the non-government, what is that will be done to handhold this non-government sector. And this is the non-government sector which truly not only will contribute in the upstream and the midstream of that 20%, but the downstream of 80%. The biggest hope there is, as the IT capital of the world, and the IT and the ITES, that all of us pride ourselves that India is being the capital of the whole world. This is precisely where that 80% of the commerce will actually get created. And people like Rohan, who is sitting right next to me, are the ones who are hope for future. And that's essentially where hundreds of those kind of startups are the ones which will make all the difference. I can tell you that 6 years back, 7 years back, there were less than 5 startups in space. And this is an era where space was not even allowed to be open. Today, the last count we had is 160. In last 3 years, that's a kind of a jump. Now, the kind of solutions and kind of futuristic approaches to technology that you keep hearing from each one of them is hard to believe. But what ISRO always did was imagery, typically maximum amount of frequencies at which you will do the mapping used to be limited. We haven't gone beyond 4 or 5. A startup in India today says hyperspectral 180 frequencies. Now you decide a notch filter on each of those frequencies, put different gains, and you get different outcome of the same image. And that's the power of innovation. And that's essentially what we are looking forward towards, that building the commerce for the whole world. Now it's not just about technologies, emerging technologies, leveraging technologies, building actual solutions, taking to the world, gaining that kind of a competence that we are going to be someone very significant. The immediate short-term 10-year target is to reach double digit in the space commerce. And that I would believe, in terms of what one would want to achieve, not just talking of technologies and emerging scenarios, but from there to be able to take India as a logo right across the world, to be able to contribute not just to Indian public, but to the global population, and to help in that sense the mankind at large. I would stop here. Thank you. Jai Hind.
For the panelists, we have amongst us a crowd that is primarily from the defense sector. They are the end users of a lot of emerging technologies. They are also likely the handholders of the R&D of some of these technologies. And their role becomes extremely important when it comes to co-development of certain emerging areas that we'll be discussing about. So we have amongst us people who are into navigations, into mapping. L&T is into everything under the sun. We have an end user amongst us, a former end user amongst us, who brings great insights, being the Director General of Defense Space Agency. So I'll start with the first round of questions, 5 minutes each, and then we'll come back again for another round of question, and then we open up to the audiences. So I'd first start with Air Vice Marshal Khote. So please brief us about some of the emerging technologies that you've come across. Space is not an emerging technology, but how do you integrate AI? How do you integrate machine learning or some of the emergent materials into your needs?
Thank you, Dr. Chaitanagiri. First of all, a very good morning to this very distinguished audience, luminaries from so many diverse fields, the chair and my co-panelists. Very good morning to everybody, and my thanks to Nitin Gokhale and team Bharat Shakti for this opportunity. Coming to the question itself, I spent about 2 years as Director General of the Defense Space Agency, a new raising. At the time, I was the second Defense Space Agency chief. And it was an immersive 2-year experience which forced me to look at a lot of opportunities, a lot of hard facts and realities, and gain some insights. And I'd like to share some of those perspectives with you today. Space is obviously a child of technology for us. That is exploration of space. As much as is the Air Force, which is my parent service, and to a large extent the Navy as well. It is technology that allows us to move into these domains. And so we live off technology. The newer technologies make things easier, cheaper, and more accessible. And what we are undergoing right now, and as the topic says, it's about new and emerging technologies for civil and military use. We're seeing a revolution in space affairs, so to say, to use, or to take off from the term revolution in military affairs that everybody in uniform would be aware of. What we're undergoing is a revolution in space affairs. And that comes from two main factors. One is the commercialization of space, the availability of space products and space services on a retail basis to the common man. And that practically opens up all of humanity as a potential customer to what comes from space. And that's a change, because space was primarily driven by military purpose and by government funds in its initial part, the first 50 odd years. The second revolution is actually a technological revolution, and which is different from earlier ones in the sense that this revolution comes from a fusion of a number of disparate technologies, which is bringing different disciplines together to give you solutions which have not existed before. And the exciting future of space comes from this. To come to technologies themselves, I mean, there's just a host of them that we can talk about. I will just touch upon a few of them. It all starts with the launch story. So launch vehicle technology is at the heart of how you're able to access space at all. Chairman ISRO talked about the reduction in launch costs, and that's a very relevant thing. So new fuels, new materials, composites, lowered cost of launching per kilogram into space. And what's driving this particular thing is the small satellite revolution. And that's a fusion, that's an integration of a huge number of different technologies, from materials to miniaturization, processing techniques, smaller sensors and payloads, smaller communications technology, all of it coming together into the small satellite solution. And so you have a transition that's going from satellites that were typically 1.5 to 5 tons of the earlier generation, and coming down to nanos and micros. Between these two is the story that's unfolding in front of us. Then I would like to point out after launch and the spacecraft technology itself, there is the mission operations technology, because the life of the satellite is controlled by operations that take place and are controlled from the ground. So the ground segment, telemetry, tracking, payload commanding, satellite control, and navigation. All of these are also areas in which there are very exciting things taking place. And then comes the downstream part. Once you've downloaded what you're getting from space, what do you do with that data? And that really is the pot of gold. And there, India's strength in IT is they are really looking to be leveraged into producing solutions in the applications area. And from the same set of data, you can produce thousands of applications potentially. So a lot of thought needs to go into these areas. A lot of them are low-hanging fruits, and it's possible for us to really make a lot of headway if we concentrate on some of these areas here. In addition to that, the future is going to come down to proximity operations, rendezvous and proximity operations as they are called, when you can close in to another spacecraft in space. Robotics, which is going to allow us to do a lot of on-orbit activities like on-orbit servicing, on-orbit refueling, and so on and so forth. And all of this is going to be very, very important, not only for us, not only for the military, not only for India, but for all of the global space order, for long-term sustainability of space itself, because we are proliferating objects in space at a rate which may make our continued operations in space difficult. And for long-term sustainability, we're going to have to do such things as active debris removal, technologies related to self-destructing materials, reusable launch vehicles, and of course the RPOs and the robotics that I talked about are going to allow us to keep space free enough to be able to utilize it in future. So that's the primary basket of technologies at which we look at with great interest. And I think a lot of the future is going to unfold from these. There's much more, of course, but I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. From space, we'll come to something that is more permeating, and that is navigation. And when it comes to navigation, we have Elena Geosystems. We have Mr. Velan with us. Sir, could you brief us about the increasing tactical necessities of navigation in modern warfare? And of course, navigation has numerous civilian applications. How do you balance it out? How does the market dynamics work?
Let me tell you about this technology per se, then come and answer your question of how do we balance it out between the public and the defense requirements. Let me introduce this technology to you all. See, there is a technology which is a real catalyst in all your working. That is GNSS technology. What we all generally talk about as GPS is a global navigation satellite system based monitoring of your operations. If you use it, what will be the advantage that you gain? You will reduce your losses by up to 50%, increase the efficiency by 30%, virtually doubling the output for the same set of resources that you have with you now. That's the beauty of this technology. For this technology to be used effectively in our country or in our neighborhood, we need to have a system that will give us high accuracy, high availability, reliability, and integrity for us. A system that will stand by us when we need it. Such a system has been put up by India. We call it as NAVIC. You heard DG ISRO talking about it today. He also insisted on having equipment, ground equipment for using that. So that's where the specification comes about. So this is an exponent. That's a real, a real display of Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, and Jai Vigyan part of it. We have a technology, we have a science that's been given to us long time back by the Americans in terms of GPS. But we have improved on that. We brought about a new technology for our systems so that it could be useful in our area of geography. See, this is a geographical thing context. Most of us confuse it with electronics and IT, whereas navigation is a geographical thing, which we are in this geography, what is it required for us to use? Though our system looks like a local system or a regional system as of today, government has got plans to take it around the world. So, makes a difference when we compare this with other systems is accuracy. Accuracy means other systems give you with a lot of additional satellites and a lot of towers on ground, they'll give you up to 10 meters, 20 meters, whereas our system will give you 1 meter without any of this, because it's created for us. And that's where the advantage comes both for the public and for the defense. See, public, if you say, many of us are confused with what is this 1 meter accuracy, do we need it? 1 meter means I'm sitting here, this is what it is. When we navigate using this, we are all used to Google Maps. When you are using Google Maps, will it be correct? See, there is a bus stand called, just beside this thing, there's a bus stand, Akashvani bus stand. You take that and try to locate in Google Maps and the current systems are there. Very difficult. It'll put you through different routes. Ultimately, the taxi driver will take you through another route. Similarly, there is a place within our cantonment, what you call the Terrier Hostel. Try locating it, you will never reach it. Then from Maipalpur, you try to go to T3. It will initially show you a short distance of couple of kilometers, then suddenly show you the 10 kilometers roundabout. These are all things. That's where a system which will support, because all this is made up of a systems which are made not for our country. So we need to have a system which will help us in our country. Like that's where we have Map My India here, who's getting you the ground map data. On that, we will put a dot which will take you accurately to different positions. So that's what it is. Now about using it in defense and in civil part of it, the need and the utility is same for defense and same for public also. For example, defense needs drones which have to fly shortest distance in a straight path. Navig will help them. Same is required for a farmer for spraying in his the field. And more so in our context, the fields are very small. You need to turn the drone, the spraying drone, in a very small paths. You're not going to go for a couple of kilometers spraying it. So that's a context. So in my sense, this technology can be used effectively by both defense and public. The utilization is the same by both people. Only where it is used, it has to integrate in different platforms. In case of defense, it will be a war fighting machine. In case of public, it will be something useful for the public, like a vehicle tracking system or a drone, or something like that. That's what is my context. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So greater accuracy of navigation systems is useful not only for civilian activities like farming, but it will also help you on the battlefield when you are meandering across forest, you are meandering across urban jungle, so on and so forth. Now, speaking about imagery intelligence, we have Rohan Verma with us. Rohan, tell us more about your great experiences with Map My India, and are we only restricting to mapping India or we are moving global?
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the question, and thanks Patil sir for being a mentor to us through all these years. To answer your question first, Map My India is now also known as Mapples. And the reason we are doing that is because really we are now expanding beyond India. So in the last few weeks, for example, I was using Mapples app. It's a pre-production version. It's not in public yet in Korea. I had a colleague who was using it in Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, and then again I used it in the Middle East. And so 2 points I want to make today. One is how India will map itself for its defense needs and security needs. And then what we as Indians can offer to the world, what we call the Map My Nation stack, so that other countries in the rest of the world can also become Atmanirbhar when it comes to their nation's defense and security needs around leveraging the power of maps, IoT, Navig-based IoT, navigation systems, drone-based systems, AI and analytics, geospatial and GIS, and satellite-based imagery analytics, what I call the MINDAGS stack, MINDAGS. So, I mean, let me start with the MapMyIndia piece of it. You know, historically, since 28 years, we have created India's most comprehensive, accurate, and detailed digital maps. So that whether it's any village or any city, down to the house address level, and not just in 2D, but now increasingly in 3D, in high definition, in 360-degree, and with real-time updates, what we are calling 4D. We are building this digital map twin of the real world. I mean, just as an aside, fun use case of this is the cricket metaverse that we have just put out for the World Cup, where different stadiums you can experience in full 3D. And so as a consumer, you know where the bathroom is, where the stand is, what the view is from your seat. Can you see line of sight beyond a particular area? But the true defense and security use case around this is around wargaming, around planning. You know, in case of a offensive or counter-offensive, in case of a kind of an operation. And so we really hope people use this real-world metaverse that we have built for all sorts of scenarios in the defense. Beyond this maps, I know historically people have been used to using Google Maps, but we all know what happened in Russia and Ukraine war, where Google Maps was turned off for usage by Russians. And what happens if that gets turned off for India? It happened during Kargil, where the GPS system was switched off. So we can't really have a reliability on a system controlled by one country for our daily and, I mean, almost kind of a utility need around maps and navigation. And that's Mapple's India's own answer to that. And in that, we are really grateful to ISRO to partnering with us to exchange Bhuvan and MapMyIndia APIs so that there's one stack, that along with Navik, one end-to-end stack where India is Atmanirbhar when it comes to maps and navigation. And the question people used to ask is, you know, everybody uses Google Maps. So the answer to that is now in the last few months, a lot of people are using Mapple's app as well. We have 10 million plus downloads. And, you know, it's increasing a lot. I'm very grateful to the Indian Army for now taking this up seriously in terms of leveraging the Mapple's platform in a completely secure, non-internet hosted manner from the maps to the software for navigation and tracking needs of various defense personnel, or in terms of kind of leveraging or doing TOT with MapMyIndia for what is called IndiGIS, indigenized geospatial system around 3D and defense. So lots of things happening in India. And the last thing I'll tell you, in G20, which happened, we are quite grateful. On one side, the government used it for traffic planning, traffic management, telling consumers using Mapple's app where to go, where not to go during and how to go during G20. But at the same time, using our IoT, Navik-based IoT devices and route planning for all the VIP cavalcade movement, all the heads of state, so that in real time in the control room, they knew where the VIPs were, the logistics planning of moving 40 heads of state from 30 hotels to the venue where the Prime Minister was going to wait for them, so that 1 minute by 1 minute, without anybody having to wait, they could do this. So such a complex logistical exercise using indigenous technology. All of this is happening in India. India is no longer behind. It is ahead of many countries. And that's why we say it's really the India stack, MapMyIndia stack that Indian defense can use. And similarly, the way UPI has been given to other countries to enable them, similarly, the MapMyNation stack can be given to all our friendly countries so that they too, from maps to applications to devices and to drones and then satellites, they can leverage the Indian capability. So that's what we are doing.
Thank you, Rohan. Toby Simon with us. Toby is India's foremost think tanker who looks at emerging technology from a Bangalorean vantage point. Toby, we've seen some inroads being made when it comes to quantum computing, Sycamore, Zhuhang. What's the state of the art in India and globally when it comes to deployment of these technologies?
Yeah, thank you very much, Giri. And I want to also thank Nitin and the organizers for doing such a fascinating conclave. Let me first put a context as to why I am here. I'm the odd man out, the outlier. But over the last 25 years, we have been working in deep security in many parts of the world. We look at conflicts. We have been in conflicts ourselves in different forms. And we do something that we call pattern recognition. So from about 1991, we have been looking at it. And what we do now for many years is we have been partners to the Ministry of Defense for about 8 years, both at their Aero India and Def Expo, on what we call what's the future of conflicts. So we put up the first thought leadership in both these events, and we are humbled that at least on 3 events in Aero India and Def Expo, our thought leadership was what they used as the theme for the title of the conference. So we did one last at the Def Expo in Ahmedabad, where we showcased how conflict had changed in the last 10 months preceding that. 10 examples. All the presentations were done by people who had real battle experience. And this was picked up by the Americans, the Pacific Command, and they invited us to come and do 3 or 4 roundtables for them at the US Pacific Command in Hawaii. We have since done a few workshops in India on a topic called quantum warfare. What we do is, given our background in understanding security, we try to bridge the gap between people who build technology and people who have to use. Because the semantics that both of them use, the trust that is needed to build this business, is something that we feel is a missing link. And that's what we try to bridge. We understand security. So when we speak to security practitioners around the world, there is a trust, and they know that we are talking something that we have been through somewhere in as a part of an aggregation that we do. So today I'll just speak about the quantum thing, and let me give you a context. The importance of quantum is that it is the next gen for us of cyber. And we will just agree on 3 things in cyber: that there are no air gaps in cybersecurity. Number 2, the surface area of cybersecurity has increased significantly with the adoption of IoT, which means every critical infrastructure that you have in civil or military has huge components of this, which means the vulnerability is more. And third, hackers have now started a new strategy: hack now and decrypt later. And this is where quantum comes. If you see the attack on whether it's the AIMS hospital here or any other critical infrastructure, people are hacking now, and when they have quantum, they will decrypt it in less than an hour. So that's the game. The challenge is we don't know when quantum has come, or is it already there? We knew when there was Y2K because there was a day. It was January 1st, 2000. But we don't know when is Y2Q. So this is the biggest challenge that in quantum. And what if I have to speak about the challenges, it is that most of our algorithms on which we have built all our cyber protection is either RSA or EEC. And that is easily compromisable under a quantum computer or even a quantum simulated computer. What we are now talking about is, what do we do? I mean, we can talk about problems. What we are talking is about quantum encryptions and the future and why it is so important. So as an organization, we mentor, incubate these sort of technologies, and we look at 2 technologies. One, quantum encryptions beyond the world of quantum computing, which either it's today or yesterday or tomorrow. And the second is artificial intelligence. How do you provide defense in AI? Because the moment you use AI, you have actually opened another front of yours. So somebody who can come into your system by deception can manipulate it and make sure it works against you. So these are the 2 areas I feel is going to be the next frontier of security, whether it is military, satellite, space. Just look at the combination of AI and HAPS, which will be your aerial data center for you to fight any modern warfare using robots, whatever. Just imagine that is compromised. You will shoot yourself. So I will just conclude with this, that from a practitioner's perspective, these are two most vulnerable areas, and I'm so happy that when we are talking to the heads of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force in India, there is definite recognition of this, and there's a hunger to know more and more, which we find something that will help us not only protect, but in times if we want to go offensive, it is possible. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Toby. Before we close the session, I'd like to go once again in a round asking a very generic question. And that generic question is, to each of you, which is the technology that you think will play a crucial role in the next dual-use applications? Has it arrived, or is it yet to arrive? Is it just on the anvil? So I'll start with Patil sir first.
The most crucial technology going forward is, once you move every of your ability to see and sense into the sky, what happens on ground, what Toby just about talked about on cyber, you don't have to take the trouble of putting a satellite. You just hack somebody else's and use it for yourself, or confuse and put all kind of wrong data and wrong information. So this is a technology wherein, beyond what in the known realms, what we are dealing with, an unknown, which is essentially going to be extremely important. So our systems which today go into space will have to have that kind of intelligence built in. And to do that is, to my mind, going to be a very crucial thing going forward.
AVM Khoth.
You mentioned dual-use technologies, and in space, other than an extremely small number of technologies, everything is dual-use. And with minor tweaks and minor modifications, the same technology can be equally profitably used both in the civilian and the military domains. If there was to be a single technology to be named, and that's a difficult one, because there are just so many of them which are coming together, I would have to say it would be artificial intelligence and applications thereof. Because the areas in which AI and ML technologies can be utilized, limitless. Because everything today is a cyber entity, and there is computers and there is processing involved in each of them, and therefore it is possible to embed some level of intelligence in each of them. What this does to the processes, if you look at how space is run today, there is a huge amount of man-in-the-loop process involved. The command and control of satellites, in the manufacturing, in the designing, in the ability to address emergencies and contingencies and things like that. If you had more and more intelligence built into the systems, spacecraft, ground, and including the analysis and the processing part, you would be able to reduce the human resource required to do this, and the ability to make decisions based on what we have is going to go up extremely high. What this means is you have autonomous satellites, possibilities, autonomous navigation on satellites, autonomous command control, autonomous station keeping. So all of these things have the possibility of truly revolutionizing how we do things. The same thing happens at the applications end. If you embed an adequate amount of machine learning and AI technologies within your downstream applications, your ability to analyze vast amounts of data, it comes down to very, very small. If you add quantum computing to this, imagine to what extent the power goes. Your ability to analyze masses of GIS data and to draw inferences out of them, actionable intelligence, and act, is truly going to revolutionize how you do work.
Thank you. Rohan, what about you? What has arrived? What is yet to arrive?
Hello. Yeah. So my answer is digital map twin. Why I say this is because everything has a location dimension on Earth, but also in space and even like micro level inside our body, inside our mind. And digital twinning that by modeling and mapping that world, digital twinning that and then applying algorithms, AI, etc., can help us kind of simulate as well as act. So I really have this philosophical answer. That's really the, let's say, long-term mission of Map My India or Mapples, to digitally map twin the real world so that then we can not just understand it, model it, but also then act upon it, simulate it in different scenarios to get the best outcome that we're looking to achieve. That's my answer.
From my point of view, navigation technology, it's already arrived. When utilization starts, it's going to change the way people are going to compute also. Today, everyone is bothered about for example, parents are bothered about where the children are there, colleagues are bothered about where other people are there, the companies are bothered about where their resources are deployed. So navigation technology, more so that multi-GNSS technology, miniaturized into small handheld devices, will revolutionize the way we are computing.
I think, Giri, you have asked a fascinating question, and my answer is a little different. The fact is it's not about the technology. I come from Kerala, and we have a martial arts called Kalaripaitu. Many of us were fortunate to learn that. And the most potent weapon we had at close combat was a small broomstick. It's only so small, and at best a pencil. It was not a knife, it was not a sword. Close combat. Similarly, when you look at today's technology, it's about how do you fuse it. So in battle, you have now something called teaming of armies, which is a very popular strategy that is being preferred, going beyond interoperability. I would say even better would be teaming of technologies. How do you team these technologies? You play AI on quantum and quantum on HAPS and HAPS to make sure you get force multipliers. And whoever can do this and whoever can understand this will have the maximum kinetics with them. It's not going to be who has singular technologies. You can have any number of technology, but if you can't combine and use them, the effectivity that you have in a comparative scope will be much less. Thank you.
Thank you. So with this, we come to the end of knowledge session 1. Fascinating session. Perhaps I asked a question that was too simple, but the answers that I got out of it was quite profound. And emerging technologies are something that we'll always continue to work upon, be it in 21st century or be it in 22nd century. So we'll have to be on our toes. We'll have to keep innovating. There'll have to be a steady collaboration between end users as well as innovators and facilitators like us who bring such great people on the platform. So with this, we come to the end of knowledge session 1. And I hand over to Nilanjana once again. Thank you. Please give them a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for that session. May I please request Air Marshal Ajit Bhosle to please come up and present mementos to the moderator and the panelists. To the moderator, Dr. Chaitanya Giri, editor of Interstellar.news. A memento to Mr. Toby Simon, Synergia Foundation. To Mr. V.S. Velan, the founder of Elena Geosystems. To Mr. Rohan Verma, the CEO of Map My India. To Mr. J.D. Patil, Larsen and Toubro. One more. And to Air Vice Marshal D.V. Khote, the former Chief of the Defence Space Agency. Thank you very much. I request the moderator and our panelists to please join the rest of the audience while we quickly move into the second inaugural session. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, a reminder, if you're posting on your social media accounts, please remember to use the hashtags at the hashtag IDC 2023 and hashtag Catalyst 2023. Please tag our handles at the rate StratNewsGlobal and bharatshakti.bsi. Also, each of your cards, the lanyards that you have received, has a QR code. The QR code is also on the brochure that each of you would have received on your, the brochures in the delegate kits. Please scan the brochures. The brochures will send you to the home pages of our 3 websites as well as our social media handles. Request you to please subscribe to our social media handles. Like, share, subscribe. I would also like to tell you that all these sessions are going live on YouTube. Each session has a separate YouTube link, and we are going live on YouTube because I can promise you that the numbers in our audience are only going to increase as the day progresses. So for many of those who are not able to make it, we have requested them to watch this live on YouTube. Moving on to our next session, Civil-Military Fusion, the road ahead. I would like to call upon the moderator and the panelists one by one as I introduce them quickly. The moderator of this session is Mr. Anil Padmanabhan of stratnewsglobal.com. Mr. Padmanabhan has been a journalist for the last 37 years, working in various news publications. He has been freelancing since 2020, and he writes for Economic Times, Khalij Times, The Open, and features on national television. He also writes a weekly column, Capital Calculus, on Substack, and does a weekly show on Strat News Global called Capital Calculus, which looks at policies and developments through the intersection of politics and economics. Anil, thank you very much for agreeing to moderate this session. I have a rather sad announcement, sad as in unfortunate announcement to make. The keynote address was supposed to be delivered by Dr. Abhay Karandikar, the Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. You're all aware that he took over his office on the 3rd of October. And today he has been called by the PMO. Exactly a week after he's been called by the PMO, so he's not been able to make it to this event. We are definitely missing him, but obviously PMO. Our panelists, I would like to call our panelists one by one. Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, National Cybersecurity Coordinator, NSCS. General Nair is an internationally recognized cybersecurity mentor who since July this year has been tenanted the prestigious appointment of the National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the National Security Council Secretariat, Government of India. He's responsible for coordinating all activities across multiple sectors to ensure a secure and resilient cyberspace within the nation. His area of specialization includes the development of information and communication technology, space, cyber, cryptology and intelligence, recon and surveillance application. He has been the Chief Information Security Officer of the Ministry of Defense and of the Indian Armed Forces and has been responsible for protection of critical information infrastructure in the defense domain. General Nair, thank you very much for attending and agreeing to be a panelist on this session. Our next panelist, Major General C.S. Maan. He is the ADG of the Army Design Bureau. He has had a varied and enriching experience comprising prestigious command, staff, and instructional tenures. The officer commanded an armored regiment and later on the Independent Armored Brigade in the Western Theatre. He has varied experience both in tank warfare and also in counterinsurgency and counter-terrorist operations. In his last appointment as Brigadier Capability Development, he was handling the big budget capital procurement of the Indian Army. He's currently the Additional Director General of the Army Design Bureau. He's a key facilitator of indigenization and infusion of niche technologies in the Indian Army. General Maan, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Our next panelist, Rear Admiral Ankur Sharma, DG WESI. He is the Director General of the Weapons and Electronic Systems Engineering Establishment. During his 33 years of naval career, the officer has accumulated a rich experience through varied appointments in the field of maintenance of maritime systems, research and development. His present areas of interest include adaptation of futuristic technologies to maritime domain and synergizing commercial cutting-edge technologies to battlefield application. His current work relates to the induction of emerging technologies in the field of weapon and electronic systems into the Indian Navy. Admiral Sharma, thank you very much for being a part of this panel. Our next panelist is Mr. B.K. Singh. He's the former Special Director of IB and the former DGP of the Chhattisgarh Police. Mr. Singh, is he here? Okay. You're here, sir, please. Thank you. He has a wide field of experience of ground policing, being the SP in 4 districts, and intelligence and security affairs, working with IB and the Ministry of Home Affairs. He was posted in various conflict theaters, including Naxalism, left-wing extremism, and areas of communal conflict. He led intelligence delegations of India to intelligence agencies in the UK, France, US, Canada, UAE, etc. Core functions like counterintelligence, subversion, intelligence coordination, administration, security liaising, along with vigilance and administration of intelligence operations. Presently, he's a resource person of National Intelligence Academy and similar institutions. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this session. And shall I hand over the session to you? Can I have a round of applause, please? We have a very, very erudite panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilanjana, and welcome the entire panel. And I know our sessions between lunch, just ahead of lunch, and we're running behind schedule. But I guess we'll try and make up with the cooperation of our panelists. So they've agreed they will pass up on the opportunity of making an opening remark and jump right into questions. So I thought I don't need to introduce the topic to a set of domain experts in the panel and set of domain experts there. And following the act that we have been seeing since morning, the first panel laid the architecture and the last panel actually spelt it out as to what exactly civil-military fusion is all about. So it's a very powerful idea, and whatever little that I know, I see the US way, a China way, and now we are seeing the evolution of an India way. So I'll dive straight into questions. We'll have 2 rounds here, then open up to the panel, to the audience. We haven't done it all morning due to time constraints, but please be ready with your queries because there's a great panel and don't miss up an opportunity in quizzing them on ideas. So if I can begin with General Nair. So, the ISRO chief remarked, not here, just 2 days ago, that there are about 100 attacks, cyber attacks on ISRO every day. I mean, I can't even do the math, what it adds up to in a year. So, sir, how is it that, how are you and India developing a kind of defense to handle this kind of cyber attacks, especially in the context of what we heard about quantum and this whole AI, and the scale and the quantum of attacks are going to only increase. So how do you hold a very important job, you're on the hot seat as it were.
Thank you, Anil. Anil, Chair, fellow panelists, distinguished members of the audience here, it's my proud privilege to be speaking to you at this Bharat Shakti conclave. I've been attending earlier sessions too, and currently it's in my previous assignments that I've been speaking on issues related to ICT as the Signal Officer in Chief, and prior to that in my multiple assignments. So I've been closely associated with the industry as also on being an architect on trying to have the civil-military fusion taken to its higher threshold. That's what I've been attempting to do. Now, I was appointed as a National Cybersecurity Coordinator just about 3 months back, and I took over on the 1st of July. And I'm still serving, it's nice to share the stage with 2 other serving officers. So I also am a serving officer, but I decided to take on this assignment, like what he mentioned, that the cyberspace of our country is attacked multiple times, like the chairman ISRO had mentioned that 100 times a day.
But when you have, I'll quote a small statistics from the NPCI data, which says that we had carried out transactions, 10 billion transactions in the month of August and September this year, amounting to over 15.75 lakh crores of rupees. Now, this is a kind of the involvement of our cyber space in financial domain. So obviously there are bound to be attacks which are there. It's a very, very attractive, lucrative target, and cyberspace cannot be segmented. It is a global cyberspace. You can't even distinguish between civil and military cyberspace. So these are the challenges. So obviously there will be attacks. In fact, 100 is too small a figure if you look at ISRO itself. So if you look at the entire country as a whole, there's another statistics which I just picked up. It says that, in an average, India has been attacked 268 times per week in the last 6 months of the year. And the global average is only 1165. So that's the kind of attack which we face in our country, primarily because we have our digital infrastructure which is actually reaching out to the remotest corners of the country. I think that will answer the question which you had posed, Anil.
No, I'll do a quick follow-up. Do you think the civil-military fusion will help in creating a better defense?
All right. I'll answer that particular issue because I come from the ICT domain where I have considerable expertise, as that's been mentioned earlier. The previous panel had a question given by the moderator on what should be the single technology which will make a difference. That's a question which was posed. And the members, the panelists did mention. But a common thread amongst all the responses was the data. Now, what actually makes a difference in our world of cyberspace is actually the data which is going to be handled, an enormous quantity of data which is going to be there in the environment. And to protect that data, to secure it, is the biggest challenge we are going to face in the future. And that's where it cannot be done by a single entity, be it the military, be it the civil. It has to be a collective effort of starting right at the user, the device ecosystem, the networks which are there, the applications which are riding on the ecosystem. So it has to be a multi-pronged approach. It cannot be restricted to one ministry doing it or one entity doing it. It has to be across the board. And that's where civil-military fusion is going to play a major role.
Thank you. Gentleman, if I can come to you. Your organization is fairly young, but you have had to literally hit the ground running because of the odds that General Nair just put out and what the panelists ahead of us have already laid out. So can you kind of walk us through quickly as to the track record on how you're coming up, pursuing the civil-military fusion? Because I do know you're like the front office in collaborating with the civil side, particularly drones, etc. So could you just quickly walk us through?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and co-panelists. Firstly, my thanks to Bharat Shakti for having invited for this particular panel and this entire event. It's a great learning. Coming to your question, Army Design Bureau is an organization which has been created actually, say about 6 years back, but effectively, I'll say about 3 years back, when as an independent directorate within the Indian Army, we came into existence. And the purpose of the Army Design Bureau is to induct niche technologies into the Indian Army. Now, it is very easier said than done. It involves a whole lot of issues. And so far as civil-military fusion is concerned, from that point of view, actually, we are supposed to be a single point contact between the Army, the academia, the industry, and the research and development establishments. And for that, some of the measures which we have taken is firstly our outreach. As of today, we have a database of nearly about more than 1,500 industries, including startups, MSMEs, everyone. And of late, in last 1 year, we have actually contacted the top 200 technology institutes of the country and top 50 research and development institutes of the country. Now, to say, actually speaking, initially the response was really not very encouraging. But then later on, we took out a compendium of problem definition statements containing about 110 problem statements, which was launched by the Honorable Raksha Mantri during Aero India. And when we disseminated that to all these 250 academic and technology institutes, the R&D institutes, the response was really, really overwhelming. So to say that as of today, we have received response to about 100 odd problem statements, and from nearly 450 academia and industry. And for the first time, nearly 40% of that is from academia, which is really very, very encouraging for us. Now, apart from that, most important thing is that the industry is, quite towards the south. Our problems lie on the northern borders. And many of them were very enthusiastic to work on something, but are not aware of the kind of environmental conditions in which the equipment is required to operate. So for that purpose, what we are conducting is forward area tours, wherein, especially in the last 1 year, rather in this year onwards, we've increased the frequency to almost once in 2 months. Academia, primarily startups, those who are new into this field, the industry partners, they are being sent to our forward areas and being acquainted with the ground problems over there, so that they get to know the kind of problems, especially in the high altitude areas, the atmospheric conditions, the weather conditions, the terrain conditions, which are very, very demanding on the equipment they have to make tomorrow. Now, apart from this, so far as academia is concerned, with them, we have also opened our Indian Army cells in 3 different institutes. We started off with an Indian Army cell in IIT Delhi about almost 2 years back, and it has really taken off very well. Good about 30 odd startups being incubated over there, and good about 10 odd innovations already which have fructified and being inducted into the Army. Now, based on this experience, we have now recently started with 2 Indian Army cells, one in Kanpur and one in IIT Kanpur and one in IISc Bangalore. Now, and also, so far as civil military fusion is concerned with the industry, how we are facilitating is that when the industry is developing anything, they need to conduct their internal validations. For that purpose, they do not have really the ranges available or the kind of area, the access to the kind of area where that equipment is required to operate. So for that, we are facilitating them in their internal validations. We are providing our ranges. We are sending them to our forward areas or the areas of employment of that equipment, so that where it can be actually tested, evaluated by them, and accordingly the product improvements are being suggested by troops on ground, and we also get to know what is in the offing, what is coming up. Also, it is again both ways. It's not only what we are wanting, it's also what the industry is able to give to us. And it is based on this that we have been conducting, wherever the industry comes up to us with any product, we do conduct a no cost, no commitment demonstration, which gives us an idea of the kind of equipment available. And if we find it that, yes, it is of use to us in its present form, we are going ahead with its procurement. In fact, emergency procurement has been really a good opportunity for us, as a result of which 11 new different types of equipment, which were otherwise not planned in the immediate future, we have been able to procure worth about nearly 2,000 crores of equipment. So that is how, and also as part of our outreach, we have opened 2 regional technology nodes, one in Bangalore and one in Pune, so that our outreach, instead of Delhi, and it is more even towards the southern part of the country, where most of the industry lies over there. So these are some of our endeavors in that civil military fusion, so that we handhold the industry, we make them aware of what our requirements are, we utilize the products, exploit them, what they have to offer to us. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. If I can do a quick follow-up, how do you coordinate this? We have academia, you have civilians, other civilians, military. Culturally, in the workspace, they're very different. So how do you manage the coordination, particularly in your experience?
Okay. Actually, my organization is as such. I have 2 brigadiers under me with 2 different sections. One is the technology and weapon systems, who are responsible for the entire scan of what all is available in the technology, and both globally as well as domestically. And the other one is Technology Resource Center, where I have separate desks, each headed by a colonel. One is for the industry, one is for academia, one is for DRDO, and like that. So that is how we are able to actually, and one is for the field formations. So that is how the entire integration actually we're able to manage with it. Although, yes, this is what we started off with. But then the bandwidth is actually now getting reduced. Because so to say that within last about 16 months, the number of research and development or design and development projects which we are handling has increased from 120 to 300 plus. So it's nearly about, a little less than 3 times it has increased. So therefore the bandwidth is, and we are going to cater for it accordingly organizationally. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll come back to all of you on this because I'm very curious how it works in real life. Admiral, if I can come to you, in this, we just saw in the earlier speakers also mentioned, and we also have aware of it, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, AI was very heavily in use. So how are you readying India, the Navy, for incorporating this tech into our defense practices?
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Gokhale, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to come here and be in the part of the panel on a topic which is not only close to me personally, even professionally, I've been associated throughout my entire tenure in the Navy. And apart from that, I'm heading an organization which charter is to work in the domain of emerging tech. Having said that, before I come to the question, I just like to apprise the forum, as all of you are aware, indigenization and Atmanirbharta within the Navy go back to the days of 1960s and 70s. Indian Navy was the first to embark on a program where indigenization of ships, making of platform was attempted at Mazgaon Docks, Bombay. Having gone that part, today, as far as float component is concerned, we've got close to 100% indigenization. Coming to move, we are close to 70 to 80% indigenous content. And finally, fight, from a percentage of 20 to 30, we've come to an indigenous content of 70%, close to 70%. That itself shows how serious we are as regards indigenization is concerned. Having walked the highway of indigenization, we have now shifted our focus towards getting our ships in more tech savvy, adopting emerging techs in our operations, onboard our platforms, and in our functions. Towards that, we have made structures. We have made new structures which encourage adoption and induction of new technologies, be it TDAC, be it Sprint, be it IDEX. I had an organization called VESI, which I have no qualms in claiming is the most agile and nimble organization as far emerging tech is concerned. We are into every domain, that is AI, big data, quantum, autonomous systems, combat management systems, communication, underwater communication, you name it. And all these technologies were used during the Ukraine war. We have built expertise in each and every domain. As I brought out here, we have got domain specialists, service trained officers who are MTech or PhDs in various domains who head these verticals. They work hand in hand with industry, with academia, and deliver solutions. Just to quote an example, one of the many examples, we are an organization which has developed an autonomous boat, an ocean-going autonomous boat. Within a frame of around 7 to 8 months, the boat has done extensive trials and would be heading to Bombay, first time in this part of the world, in autonomous mode. Having said that, we have made inroads in other emerging techs like AI, big data. Navy is the only service which is moved forward, has collated its data across various domains, be it administration, be it HR, be it maintenance, or be it operations. Using this data, we are coming out with solutions which were used during the Ukraine war, be it computer vision, be it autonomous vessels, be it cyber security. All these functions require data. So we are seized of the potential of the data, and we are moving towards that. Last but not the least, what our message to our officers, our men, and our employees is: we should learn to challenge the status quo. If we do not challenge the status quo, we will not come out with anything new. So every officer, every man in the Navy is encouraged to ideate. We are willing to work with industry, not only succeed, but if circumstances demand, even fail in a development of our product. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral. I love your message that end to status quo. So I think that's something we have seen continuously over the last decade in this country. Mr. Singh, like me, you're not part of the serving forces, but you will serve the country. Sir, you are actually the intangible form of civil-military fusion, which we don't hear, but you feed all these people. So, and we are just seeing a ongoing war actually now in Israel. And one of the reasons was human intelligence failure. So in all this world of tech, human intelligence still matters, right?
Thank you for making me sit on the panel. I come from an organization which is supposed to synergize all security efforts of Government of India. All security efforts are synergized by my old organization. I have hung my boots, but then the invite was there from Bharat Shakti, Nitin Gokhale ji, and I had to make it. I came here. Civil-military fusion is nothing new. It is the openness, a certain window on the two ends, one very closed system and one completely open system. The civil side, completely open. The military side is closed. Only a small window is there to receive good ideas. Instead of wasting energy on ideation, imagination, many of the ideas churn out of the civilian systems, and that is to be picked up. Here we are to talk about the fusion. Fusion of ideas are always required. Fusion of ideas in the sense cross-breeding of ideas, mixing of ideas. Everything is not exclusive to any particular domain. Ideas should come from all sides. In Rigveda, it is rightly said, Ano bhadra kartavo hantum ichchata. Let noble thoughts come from all sides. So that is the idea, fusion. We are, in the name of fusion, we have not to ape or copy some model outside India. Since good old times, we have been following this principle or ideal of let noble thoughts come to us, and we will pull in and we will churn out something good, better than the existing. That is the thing. The next thing I wish to come to the discussion and dialogue, debate, deliberations is one way to synthesize and churn out the best idea. So discussion, public debate is very, public reasoning, public communication is very important. The best of governance and commandeering, commanding the troops, organizing the military as per the new challenges or emerging challenges is a challenge which is best accomplished through the fusion models. We already have in our system several fusion models. Our organizations are there. One organization which I serve, Intelligence Bureau, is there to synergize the security efforts. And at the highest level, there are security groups, special security groups, which take care of these emerging challenges. The other thing which I wish to is always discussion and persuasion. Discussion and persuasion pave the way for better fusion, quality fusion. And we are all in the business of security. Why security? Normally, we generally tend to perceive security as holding some area or sanitizing some area and securing it. But actually, armed forces, police, and other security systems are there to create a shared public good. As opposed to private public good, we in the security setups create something called shared public good. Shared public good is something which is not spoiled or wasted when it is put to use or made use of by another person. One person use of it does not spoil its utility for the other. Shared public good. Like private goods, my toothbrush, I will use it and it will be useless for others. But a crime-free street or a secured sovereignty in the hands of the armed forces of the country, it is always there. We are enjoying it. Secured, sovereignty secured, because nobody lives if the country dies. So the secured sovereignty and that sense is given by the armed forces. The shared public good is not amenable to assessment by market forces. It is not amenable to use assessment by market forces. Private goods are subject to market forces. Shared public goods are not. And what the government and all of us together do is a creation of shared public good. And shared public good has many of the attributes. The markets go wrong when they start evaluating shared public good. Next point I wish to say is all the technology that is emerging can be grouped in 4 broad genuses. 4 broad genuses of technology. That is, the emerging technologies can be grouped in 4 groups, 4 major groups. One is genomics, robotics, informatics, and nanotics. And these are the 4 technologies which are on the top of the curve of the technology development. Genomics, I say, in all these areas, a lot of development is taking place. but forensic capabilities need to be developed. Genomics, from the debris, a muscle piece is recovered by the forensic experts, but what to make out of it? So that genomics of that muscle debris or the human debris has to be done. So best of evidences are collected through the development of forensics. So genomics, robotics, informatics, and nanotics. In all these areas, we need to develop the best of forensic capabilities. The other thing is that using or harnessing these 4 technologies in the field of our recent challenges, like climate change, environmental degradation, environmental pollution. The climate change, which requires a concerted and coordinated effort of these 4 major technologies. Climate change has to be contained. The global boiling has to be decelerated. How to go about it? Recently, I was going through some journal. In Arctic Sea, this global boiling has led to fast melting of ice. And resultantly, the navy just stationed in those areas had to relocate themselves. And this was possible because they could read the emerging threat to the deployment. So climate change should be studied not just by one technology in terms of digital technology, in terms of all technologies should study it, research it. That is my one suggestion. The other thing I would like to mention is the great Army General de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle, when he wrote that book, Towards a Professional Army. That is his book. And there he suggested that all existing doctrines must be subjected to a review and recast. The war doctrines. So technological approach is fine, but I think all this Atmanirbhar Bharat or any talk on technology development must factor in, must take a thorough review of our existing war doctrines. That is one task which is often overlooked and not taken with the gravity that it merits. That is one thing. And Towards a Professional Army suggestion of Charles de Gaulle long ago, mobility was the new technology that was emerging then, but today it is digital. Today it is digital. Digital plus this robotics, informatics, and nanotics. Yesterday, 2 days ago, that quantum dots and quantum computing are the new areas. But I think these technologies should be applied to the bigger challenges, which is beyond the realm of armed forces or the police or the security setups. That is one thing. And one more thing, challenges can be enumerated in several ways, and they are far too many. They can't be attended in one go simultaneously. But we have to have a graded research work on that. And in the process, the secrecy and the secrecy aspect must be taken care of. The other thing
Sir,
before I conclude.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just come back because I just want to ask them one question before I just come back to you again, if you don't mind. We're just running out of time. So
Okay, I
we
will
are
just finish. I will quote one Stoic philosopher, Epictetus. And he says that we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. So with that, I conclude for shortage of time. And
Thank you.
Nonetheless, fiat lux.
Thank you. I just, thank you, sir. I just want to ask one generic question to all three of you before we open it to the audience because we're really out of time. So, beginning with you, General, same question, that how are each of you working to break down the silos? I did obliquely ask General Mann that question, but these silos, how are you, the civil-military fusion, powerful idea, but to execute it, you need these silos to go. And it's a legacy thing. It's not, so you're adapting to extremely new circumstances. So how are the three of you approaching it in your own spheres?
Thank you. Thank you, Anil. I should say that I've spent about 40 years in the army, and I see that there's been a complete transformational change which has taken place in the environment. One couldn't sit like this and then interact, so openly on issues related to the armed forces in forums in yesteryears. So today it's all possible. So that's the first silo which has been broken. Secondly, the challenges which the armed forces face today are very well known to the industry. And like the DG, ADB just mentioned, they have opportunities where they come across, they have the teams of industry taken to the forward areas, etc. In my specific domain, but I would confess that there is a lot of opportunity for the industry to actually get into more of technology, especially like I think Toby mentioned in the previous session on quantum cryptology. That's something which we need to have expertise today. That's where we look towards the industry to assist us. We need to have the security of our cyberspace, especially in a quantum environment, to be protected to a much better extent. So that's where we need to have. And there are opportunities which are being exercised by the armed forces where they reach out to the academia. There are quite a few projects, like General Mann just mentioned that, that he has more than 360 projects. So this is a kind of effort that the armed forces have taken on, and so also the Navy and the Air Force. So they've actually reached out to the academia, the industry, and that's something which I think was not, which probably unheard of in yesteryears. We also have several seminars, discussions which have been held, which showcases the challenges which the armed forces face. I'll give you an example of what's happened in Sikkim very recently. 4th of October, we had the natural calamity which took place in Sikkim. Even today, the communication lines are not restored. In fact, there are pockets where we haven't been able to establish communication because the entire terrestrial media, that is the optical fiber, has been completely washed away. There are places where people haven't been able to reach, primarily because the weather doesn't permit air activity. So that's where Mr. Jayant Patil had mentioned about our northern borders, where we need to have space-based communications. So it is essential today. So we need to have, this is where I think the industry can support the armed forces to a large extent. Thank you.
In fact, whatever I mentioned is actually breaking the silos. The whole job is that. I told you about how we are getting in touch with the industry, how with the academia, how with various R&D organizations. Not only that, we are also getting in touch with the other ministries. For example, we are utilizing the expertise of Department of Science and Technology, those 450 odd responses which I mentioned, in the technical evaluation of those. We are utilizing we have signed an MOU with Department of Science and Technology, and we are utilizing their expertise so that we are able to actually get the best technology available. And similarly, even with NSCS also, we are working on certain projects, and the efforts are always to outreach so that everyone is aware. In fact, my coming here and apprising your soul is also part of that outreach, so that the others come to know as to what we can do, and we come to know what others are doing. And I think that is one thing which, with so much of now drive towards Atmanirbharta, having felt a necessity of that, each one of us I'll say all the stakeholders, whether it be industry, academia, R&D, the services itself, are quite enthusiastic about it and want to be a part of this entire journey. So as a result, all of us have taken various measures to be able to do this. But I think what is lacking is the information, the awareness in the environment about each other's organizational structures who are handling with these, the capabilities or the procedures and all. We need to really have some sort of a platform or some sort of maybe a short capsule or a course being conducted for all these stakeholders at a frequency of, can be said, at least about once in 6 months, so that then actually the silos will get broken because the provisions are there. It's only a matter of exploiting them. Thank you.
As regards the silos, within the armed forces, I'll just quote you an example. Sitting on this dais, 2 of the panelists, I'm working together with them. Whatever development they are doing, we are sharing the ideas, we're nurturing it together and going forward. As regards ADP, we are again working on a couple of projects. Whatever is the industry best, we are sharing ideas. We are breaking the silos, which is going beyond the services. That is, we are working closely with DRDO, we are working closely with Air Force, we are sharing ideas with Army. As regards the industry is concerned, I brought out earlier. As far industry is concerned, as I brought out earlier, if you have got a product or an idea, or even if you dare to dream, just pick up your phone and reach out to us. We will partner with you, work with you, and make you realize your dream. That is how we work. We are working towards all these emerging technologies as a corporation, as an enterprise. There are no silos. It's a flat organization, and you can reach out to us anytime you want. Any industry, big or small, who wants to work with the Navy, this is the approach to follow. And last but not the least, we do not believe in the concept of no cost, no commitment. That is to say, if you have an idea, I don't want you to spend your money, your time, and if I like it, I will take it. No. If you've got an idea, I will invest with you my resources, my time, my manpower, and together we will succeed, or we have got an appetite. Even if we fail, we were willing to fail together. Thank you.
Anil, just to add one more point which I just missed out. Mr. Jayan Patil had mentioned about the 700-page document, the defense procurement procedure. Now, despite that, I would like to just inform this audience that in my previous assignment, we have done procurements, in fact, signed contracts were worth over 10,000 crores in about 12 to 15 months. So this is possible in an ecosystem today, and this would not have been possible earlier. I think that answers your question, Soga.
Fair enough. Thank you. We have time for 2 questions. So who are the 2 lucky people? Please put up your hands. No questions. Okay. So the message from our chief anchor person is that we'll have to shift to lunch. And so before that, thank you very much, all of you. And please give them a big hand. And over to Nilanjan.
I think everyone wants to ask questions over networking lunch. But before that, may I please request General R.R. Nimbhorkar, the former MGO, to please present mementos to our moderator and the panelists. Like I said, we've had a wonderful panel. A memento to our moderator, Mr. Anil Padmanabhan, editor of Capital Calculus at stratnewsglobal.com. A memento to Lieutenant General M.U. Nair, National Cybersecurity Coordinator, NSCS. Memento to Major General C.S. Maan, ADG of the Army Design Bureau. To Rear Admiral Ankur Sharma, DG Vesi. And to Mr. B.K. Singh, former Special Director, IB. Thank you very, very much. And with that, we come to the end of the catalyst segment of the India Defence Conclave. I thank all of you for being such a wonderful audience. And I would quickly like to thank the sponsors, especially of this particular segment: Elena Geosystems, Anant Technologies, Larsen and Toubro, Synergia Foundation, and Map My India. Without you, this segment of the IDC would not have been possible. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, defense attaches. Thank you, delegates. Now, before you all break into lunch, which has been organized in the Deputy Speaker Hall across the lawn, I request all of you to please visit the exhibition area. Please visit the kiosks. They have been very painstakingly put up by our partners. I request you to please do that. And we will reassemble here exactly at 2 o'clock for the inaugural session of the India Defence Conclave. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.